Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with episode 9 of Panty and Stocking with Garterbelt. So, yeah, last time was actually a really good episode. Definitely my kind of shit. It was definitely covering the kinds of topics that I usually tend to get into. Um, Law dramas and just, riffing on like games like Ace Attorney and 12 Angry Men. It's like, oh yeah, that's my shit. um, what was the other part of last episode? That's all I'm thinking about. um, the other part was good too, and I can't remember it. Oh my god, I hate when that happens. But either way, it's like you would have seen, hopefully would have seen the reaction to last episode by now. So yeah, it was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. But we move on to episode 9 today, and that means we are getting close to the end. We did take a break from this, mind you, and there wasn't that many episodes to go, but still. I'm excited. I'm excited to see if we're just going to continue to basically get Scanty and knee socks in every episode leading up to the end. We know who the final bad guy is going to be. It's the mayor that's already been set up. Um, but it's going to be interesting to see exactly how we get to that point and what happens with it. Um, so yeah, I guess we just have to check it out, really. Uh, so let us get this going. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so this was a very mixed episode for me. Um, I'm going to talk about the second one first. I know this may seem weird, but we're going out of order because I don't want to end off these afterthoughts talking about the bad one. So, Ghost, the Phantom of Dodson City, and by the way, I don't remember the name of the first segment, I'll just say that off the bat. But Ghost, the Phantom of Dodson City was bad. Like, one of the weakest segments of this entire series so far, easily. It wasn't funny. It wasn't entertaining. It was just confusing, gross, and just not good. It was actively unfunny as well, which is never a great sign. Um, so I think one of the biggest issues is the entire concept, really. Um, Again, I got what they were going for, but Stocking saying she has like this high standard and falling in love with someone of who it would obviously be extremely low standards. It's like the joke is there, it doesn't work though. It's not funny. And on top of that, maybe it's just me. I hope it's not just me. But this dude was so obnoxiously terrible, was so obnoxiously like disgusting that it's like, honestly, how could you ever justify this kind of thought process? It's like Stocking was literally victimizing herself, forcing herself to believe that she was happy in a very toxic, disgusting relationship where she was being emotionally abused, And maybe it's just because of my personal issues with toxic relationships and stuff like that. Not necessarily romantic, but just in general for me. Maybe it's because of my personal issues with that, but that kind of shit bothers me, if I'm being honest. It's seeing characters like this who are so very clearly toxic and terrible and just the worst kind of people. It's like trying to excuse them by suddenly, oh, I actually do love her and this made me a better person. It's like, where the fuck did that even come from? That's bullshit. It literally came out of nowhere and didn't make any sense for what we had been seeing prior. It just it was a bullshit. It was absolute bullshit. It was absolutely bullshit. It's just like he's such a terrible person. It's not, again, it's not even just the disgusting aspect. It's also what kind of a person he was. He was so actively terrible. He was a piece of shit. He was emotionally abusive. He was manipulative. It's just like you can't just redeem him like that. That doesn't work. And even if you want to say like, "Oh, but that's the point. That's the joke." It's like it's not fucking funny. That's not a joke. There's no joke there. You're just saying, "Oh, this absolutely irredeemable shithole is suddenly redeemed." That's not a joke. It it's just so annoying. And I've dealt with people like this. I've seen people like this who are very much like this ghost was. And it's just I can't stand them. I genuinely can't stand them. So seeing seeing all of this shit going down, it's like I don't get it. I don't get it. And she was so fucking judgmental about all these other guys, uh, about all of these things that like the guy she was dating, like was just as bad with, if not worse. It's like you're gonna come up with all these excuses on why you can't bang all these other guys, but then it's like this guy who's infinitely worse, who has probably a lot of the same problems you found issue with the other guys with. It's like you're gonna suddenly be okay with it, and also maybe it's just me, but I don't feel like based on what we know of stalking in previous episodes, she would go for something like that. I'm not saying like stalking's the biggest neat freak necessarily, but that just doesn't come across as something she would vibe with at all. The absolute grossness and everything, as well as just how she was treated, it's like that feels like something stalking would be actively against. It just doesn't feel right as an episode. I didn't like it at all. There was an episode previously, like earlier on in the series, in the season at least, that I really didn't like as well, and I think it's right up there with how bad it is as that episode, or that segment, I guess is more accurate. Um, but luckily, at least this episode had a first segment that was really good. It just sucks that, the terrible segment was what we ended on. I kind of wish they were reversed in that regard. So the first segment is another involving Scanty and knee socks. Panty and Stocking go to the beach and are surrounded by a lot of just horny people who just are into them, normal day. But Scanny and Nisox arrive to tell them that the beach is theirs, that they had bought the beach a couple months ago, and they now own it. And so they decide to resolve this with volleyball because it's a beach episode. Gotta have volleyball in there. Gotta have sexy girls with cute swimsuits playing volleyball. It's the law. It's just the law. We have to do it. And so they did it, and yeah, it was exactly what you'd expect. Scanny and Nisox were cheating, so Panty and Stocking decided to even out the playing field, and they eventually had a true match that ended with Panty and Stocking winning. But Scanny and Nisox were sore losers and decided to bring in a bunch of ghost fish, which didn't get resolved in the end. I mean, I presumably it would have, but like in the end of the episode, it's like Panty is just being assaulted by the ghost fish. Basically, that's what it comes down to, and all the people around are just upset that the ghost fish are covering her tits and crotch and everything. Stocking is getting. Do you count it as molestation if she's clearly okay with it? If she's clearly consenting to it, she is very into it. Like, Jesus, girl. See, that's okay. Getting interested in that ghost is not. If you want to be into tentacles, it's like fair enough. I can give you that. But the ghost shit, no. But yeah, it's like it just kind of ends with them being assaulted by the ghost fish, and Scanny and Nisox get their comeuppance by using a self-destruct button because whatever. Yeah, it just kind of ends abruptly, but I think that's fine. I don't find an issue with that. The episode was fun. It was obviously a play on typical anime beach episodes and everything. It was sexy, obviously, because this series does that. It was funny. It was just generally entertaining. Yeah, I had fun with this one. It was enjoyable. It wasn't my favorite segment by any means from this season, but I still really enjoyed it. And yeah, admit it, I won't lie. It's like the sexiness. It appeals to me as well. Especially weirdly enough with Scanny and Nisox. Like I kind of have a thing for them. Almost a little more than Panty and Stocking. Weirdly enough, I don't know like how popular of an opinion that is with the fans of this series, but it's like I'm kind of into them. Like genuinely so. Especially Nisox. Like especially Nisox. Nisox is definitely more of my shit than Scanny. And funny enough, Stocking is definitely more my type than Panty. It's just I don't know the stereotypically sexy girls. I mean, it's like yes, I'm attracted to them for sure, but usually my taste tends to veer off into like then the either non-stereotypically or certain. It's weird to word it this way. I apologize preemptively, but archetypes, I guess you could say, like goth girls, it is definitely an appeal to me, which Stocking would count as. Like that's definitely an appeal to me over like the stereotypically sexy type lady. Just personally. And I tend to like a lot more interesting character designs when it comes to animation like this. Again, the characters who are just sexy, it's like that's fine, that's great. They are sexy, but I'm more interested in the characters who are more interesting, Like, for example, a good example, Scooby-Doo. Everyone's like always interested in Daphne because she's the sexy one. It's like, no, Velma. Velma's definitely the better looking one for me. It's like the orange sweater with the red skirt, the glasses. She's thick. It's like, just Velma's great. It's like, I love Velma a lot more than that. And I like Daphne. Daphne's attractive too, but still. Mind you, referring to the iterations where they are adults. Gotta make that clear, because there are some iterations of Scooby-Doo where they're not. But yeah. So, it's just basically a type of preference, obviously, but it's, I don't know how to describe things. It's just, those are kind of the characters I'm more interested in. And again, it's like you hearing this and you're probably thinking like, oh, then you shouldn't be judging Stocking for her taste. It's like, okay, the difference here is her tastes are not just unconventional, they're clearly dangerous to her. It's like staying in a toxic, abusive relationship like that is not a good thing. It's not just a matter of taste. Like that is the point where an intervention is necessary. So it's like, yeah. I'm sorry, I was fully against Stocking's perspective in that episode. Um I was on board with Panty trying to intervene. Um but again, the first segment of this episode at least was still really good. It's just the second segment bothered me. It just, again, partially probably because of personal reasons and everything, personal connections to those kinds of people I've had in my life. It's just, if plus again, just an abusive relationship, just, I hate that anyway. Like, whether, even in cases where I can't personally relate to it, it's like I still hate seeing characters and people in abusive relationships. It bothers me. It's uncomfortable, to say the least. So, yeah, also, again, the beach episode, I might have to look that up, but it's like, did you notice that that it did seem there was different animation in it than normal? Like you even watched the second segment here, the ghost segment, and it's like the animation between the two looks notably different. It's goofier and kind of more paper doll like, for lack of a better way of putting it. In the beach episode, the way they move and everything, even when they're not like drawn like kind of cartoonish and chibi-ish, and it's like I feel like that has to be a riff on the fact that some anime have done that, have had like an episode where either they outsource the animation or something, but the animation is so actively different, in some cases bad, and people have pointed that out. It's like the only episode of a series that does that too. I mentioned Gurren Lagann, and that's a great example. I don't remember what episode it was, but they were on the surface, I know that. I believe it's the episode where the siblings are first introduced. I can't remember their names right now, but the blonde guy and his sisters, I think it's the episode where they're first introduced. But the entire episode is done like in a completely different animation style, and it's very, very noticeable. To the point where it's also not good, and it's just extremely distracting. The episode, in terms of the content, like the story and everything, is just okay anyway. But it's like the animation is so jarring in that episode. And the funny thing is, it's kind of the opposite here. Because it's Panty and Stocking, because we know it's satire and everything, and because, just honestly, because of what kind of show this is, it actually worked. Like, really well. I almost kind of wish the entire series were animated like that. I'm not even kidding. It actually was really funny and made it that much more entertaining. But yeah, either way, Tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode, of both segments of this episode, in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.